Thank you all for joining me. Um, I, hey James, good to see you. Thank you for joining me. Um, I just wanted to come on and do a moment of reflection. Um, Today is April the 23rd. Today is the day that back in 1897, a man by the name of Joseph McCoy was lynched in the city of Alexandria, Virginia, on a lamppost at the corner of Cameron and Lee Streets in Alexandria. So I was excited that the city of Alexandria is. Hey, Rob and Maddie, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Hey, Monty. I was excited to see that the city of Alexandria had a pretty significant commemoration planned that has all been tabled since the COVID-19 pandemic. So I just wanted to step on, and as I was going to take a moment to reflect and to think about his life and what this means not only to him, any descendants within his family, but also what this means to our city, our nation, and our world at this time. So I'm not going to be on very long. I'm going to thank everybody in advance who's joining, and thank you for the comments and thank you for the love. I'm going to read the biography that is posted on the city's website, and then I want to read one of the newspaper articles that I have uncovered while I was doing this research. Oh, and before I get started, I want to encourage you all. The city has put together a commemorative website. So I'm very thankful for the city of Alexandria, not only for acknowledging this, but actually putting time and energy and resources towards allowing this to be what it is. So there are some, and I'm flipping through my words. So there is on the city's website, and you can go to alexandriava.gov and look for the memorandum page. Mayor Justin Wilson there is a video of him sharing a proclamation honoring both the Alexandria lynching victims. Today is the anniversary that Joseph McCoy was lynched in 1897. 2 years later, in the city of Alexandria, Benjamin Thomas would be lynched on the corner of North Fairfax and King Street, August 8th of 1899. So last August I hosted a small commemoration on that street corner, and today I felt compelled to also do something to acknowledge in my own way this atrocity. So on the city's website, alexandriava.gov, you will see pieces of the commemoration that was being planned. There is a wreath that has been laid today at the corner of Cameron and Lee Streets in Old Town, at the lamppost on the southeast corner of that intersection where Joseph McCoy was lynched by a mob. So the city shares a video, I think I mentioned that. Mayor Wilson shares a proclamation honoring both lynching victims and a formal apology from the city of Alexandria for past racial injustice. Kanika Jakarta is our poet laureate, and she's written a beautiful poem, and it's entitled A Poem for Joseph McCoy. Roberts United Memorial Methodist Church, Pastor James Danley is offering a prayer, and he is offering a prayer on the website in honor of Joseph McCoy. There is also the biography that I'm going to read of the biography of Joseph McCoy. I also, part of the reason why I wanted to do this live is I want to encourage you. It's been an experience for me, maybe since uh, this past November, I think it was, when I began working with the research committee of the city's Equal Justice Initiative to do research and pull together a narrative of not only who Joseph McCoy was as a person, but the events that led up to and happened during and then after this hate crime, this act of domestic terrorism. And so the work that we have been doing for this incident, one of the two, for Joseph McCoy, is on the website. So please go to alexandriava.gov and take some time to read and reflect on the narrative that is a document taking you through the series of events that surrounded this racial terror lynching. There is also an op-ed piece on the site. Dr. Audrey P. Davis, who is the director of the Alexandria Black History Museum, has written a piece that is in the newspaper today. The Alexandria City Librarian staff has curated a list of social justice reading, both for youth and adults. And then on the city's website, there is a digital guest book that you can submit things to. So I'm going to encourage you, if you have reflections before, during, or after this, that you go to the city's website and share in the digital guest book. We want the community to begin these conversations. We want to begin recognizing what had happened and the impact that it's having on us even today. So let's see. I will start with the biography of Joseph McCoy, and I am reading from the alexandriava.gov website. So, biography of Joseph McCoy, murdered in 1897, teenager Joseph McCoy lived his entire life in Alexandria. He was born as Reconstruction ended and the era of Jim Crow began. He grew up in the Bottoms neighborhood of South Alfred Street among his extended family of parents, siblings, cousins, aunts, and uncles. The McCoys had deep roots here. More than half a century before Alexandria citizens lynched Joseph McCoy, his grandmother, Cecilia McCoy, was born a free woman of color in the city. She raised her 4 children, Anne, Horatio, Eliza, and John, while working as a washerwoman. Anne, the oldest, entered the working world before her 14th birthday. That meant leaving her mother and little brothers and sister to work in the household of Benoit Wheat on Prince Street. By the time she was out of her teens, however, Anne and her new husband, Samuel Chase, had a home together and began raising the next generation of Alexandrians. They were Harriet, Charles, Rachel, Samuel Jr., and eventually little Joseph, the baby of the family. When Anne died soon after Joseph's birth, Cecilia McCoy took the children into her house just down the block from their father, Joseph's. Joseph's Aunt Harriet attended the school right into her teen years. However, the other children went to work as soon as they were able, working as domestic servants or performing manual labor, as Joseph did for the Lacey family, until April 22nd, 1897, when Richard Lacey accused him of attacking 3 of the Lacey children. So that is the biography that's posted online. One of the things that struck me as I've been doing research and advocating for these conversations here in the city of Alexandria is to note how long Joseph had actually been working with um, the Lacey family. He had been and he had been working with them for several years since he was a very young child. So I'm not going to get into the details of what happened. As I said, he was accused. The information about what he was accused of and how the citizens in Alexandria responded to this is laid out in the narrative that is posted on the city's website. What I do want to do is read one of the articles that continues to stick with me. We often hear about racial terror lynching. We hear about violence against black and brown bodies. We hear again about white supremacy going unchecked in our nation. But it's a thing to read it in the Washington Post laid out, after all these years as a witness to what happened that day. So April 23rd, Joseph McCoy was lynched by a mob. Then after that, there were rumors of a retaliation from the black residents. So this is an article dated April 25th, 1897 in the Washington Post. And it is listed in the archive under historical newspapers, the Washington Post, page 1. So based on that notation, I imagine this was front page news that day. And the headline is "Scare in Alexandria. Whites under arms in expectation of attack. Night of suspense and terror. Light infantry, R.E. Lee Camp, and firemen march out the Washington Road to repel a mob of blacks reported to be marching on the town. Wildly excited citizens parade the streets until 2 o'clock this morning. False rumors." And the writer is listed as special to the Post. There's no name. Alexandria, Virginia, April 24th. The excitement over the lynching of Joseph McCoy, which had in a measure died out, was suddenly revived tonight by sensational rumors of a threatened attack on the town by a mob of armed Negroes. Okay. As consequence, the city has been under arms since 11 o'clock, and the tension is greater than at any time since McCoy's arrest. All kinds of alarming rumors are afloat, and the police force, light infantry, and firemen are stationed at the various points where an attack was to be apprehended. Alarming advices. The first intimidation of any trouble came from the Commonwealth's attorney, Johnson, at Arlington, who stated that Negroes were congregating near Arlington with the avowed purpose of marching on Alexandria and wreaking havoc and wreaking their revenge upon its inhabitants. This crowd, he stated, was joined by perhaps 200 more, as they were at that time above the brickyards. This news caused a great deal of excitement, which was increased on receipt of a dispatch from Park Agnew, stating that the crowds of Negroes had passed Waterloo on the Washington Road on their way to Alexandria, shouting, singing, and cursing and swearing revenge against the inhabitants of Alexandria. When this news was received, the town was in a wild state of excitement. The military alarm, 7 taps on the town bell, was rung 4 times. The whole white male population of the city was upon the streets by this time and began to arm themselves. Immediately the alarm was sounded. The militia began to gather at the armory, and out of the 75 members, 67 responded. They were uniformed and armed and held subject to the mayor's orders. Mr. George W. Ramsey, commander of the R.E. Lee Camp of Confederate Veterans, offered the services of that organization to the mayor, and the offer was accepted. They armed themselves with pistols, shotguns, and rifles, and soon appeared at the armory in a body. By this time, every pistol had been bought from the hardware stores, and rifles and shotguns were being purchased at a rapid rate. It was impossible to get a revolver for love or money in the town. The citizens had all armed themselves as best they might, and 8,000 cartridges had been sold by dealers. Military on guard. The military were ordered to move, and accompanied by the R.E. Lee camp and followed by nearly the entire white male population of Alexandria, took up their march out of the Washington Road. The Alexandria Light Infantry were commanded by Captain Albert Fair, and their head rode in advance guard of several men armed with shotguns. They marched out to the forks in the road in the northwestern corner of the city and were formed in 2 lines. The men were lined up alongside the road and extended about a half miles on either side. They were ordered to lie down and wait for the advancement of the Negroes. The fire department was ordered out by the mayor, the fire wagons to act as ambulances. When the town was thus cleared of proper protection from fire, a rumor that 2 Negroes had stated they were going to fire the town and cause a general conflagration was started, and messengers were sent to the forks of the road to warn the men on watch. This rumor caused about half of them to return double quick to the city and divide so as to protect the town from fire. Pistol shots heard. With all the whites in these positions, police calls and firing was heard from the southern part of the city, and it was rumored that another attack had been made upon the home of Mr. Lacey, father of the children assaulted by the Negro McCoy, who was lynched. It was rumored that a policeman had been killed, and crowds began to go in the direction of Lacey's home. The bells ringing, police whistles blowing, and shots heard in all direction caused great excitement. Not an inhabitant of Alexandria was gone to bed. Women are standing in their doorways crying and wringing their hands, and children are huddled at their feet. The men are wildly excited, and the night is one of the wildest Alexandria ever experienced. The scare subsides. At a late hour, it has been ascertained that the alarm from the southern part of the city was caused by random shots, fired by drunken toughs. The report that a policeman had been shot turned out to be without foundation, and that, in fact, there was no real cause for alarm. Finally, becoming convinced that the alarming rumors put in circulation had their origin in the same quarter as the fake reports of the night before, that a mob was going to Fairfax to lynch Lewis, many of the citizens went home to bed. The militia were recalled, and a dozen mounted policemen detailed to patrol the town till morning. Several Negroes have been arrested on suspicion. And that is where that article ends. So, I just wanted to take this moment to not only honor the life of Joseph McCoy, but to think about the residents, the African American residents of Alexandria, who not only lived through that lynching, but also were subjected to this aftermath. And it hurts my heart to think that 2 years later, another African American man would be lynched. There was a group of African Americans that stepped forward 2 years later to try to stop this second lynching, and they were arrested and fined for their advocacy. So I hope that you have heard something about this that has brought more light and awareness to this situation. I think that the only way that we're ever going to get past where we are in this country is to be able to talk about it, to be able to face it soberly and seriously, and begin to have the conversations we need to have so that we can begin designing a new way of being. So again, I want to encourage you to go to the City of Alexandria's website, alexandriava.gov, and look for the in memorandum page that has been posted for Joseph McCoy, and watch the videos, read the poem. There is an article, but if you don't do anything else, please read the narrative. Please understand the facts around what has happened. And I hope that you will, if you live in the City of Alexandria, that you will get involved with the Equal Justice Initiative work when we get back to meeting in person. If you are not living in the City of Alexandria, I would encourage you to look up any incidents of racial terror lynching that may have occurred in your city, in your county, in your state, and get involved in the communities that are doing this work. The Equal Justice Initiative has the work that they are doing, but there are many states and localities and counties that are doing work on their own, surrounding not only the racial terror lynching within the defined period of the Equal Justice Initiative, but really looking at racial terror violence, restorative justice, liberation, freedom, reform, racial equity. And so we all have a part to play in this. The other thing that I will encourage you to do is to explore your own family tree and see if you are in fact descendant from people who have been exposed to, or people who actually perpetrated terrorism in this city, in this country, in this world, because it's only understanding who we come from, good, bad, and indifferent, that we can begin to heal and acknowledge what this is. So that's why I was on here today. Again, I am acknowledging the racial terror lynching on today, which was April the 23rd in 1897 in the city of Alexandria. So thank you for joining me for this moment of reflection. Thank you for joining me for this commemoration, and I hope you all are well and stay safe. Okay, bye.